Well, TJ, the Lions are 8-3. Obviously, haven't played their best football over the last couple of games. They come away with a win against Chicago with late game heroics, even though Jared Goff had 3 interceptions. We talked about that last week. This week against Green Bay, didn't throw the interceptions, but laid the ball on the ground 3 times. Not all on him, but he's the one that's charged with protecting the ball. Defensively, obviously they come out. Jordan Love hits Christian Watson on the very first play of the game for 53 yards, set the tempo of the game, kind of set the tenor of the game. But do Lions fans have a right now to feel panic, or should they feel panic about where this team is?
Panic? No. I mean, I needed the long weekend, like I'm sure a lot of us did, to kind of regroup and regather my thoughts. This is still an 8-3 football team. 11 games into it with 6 to go. However, I would say it would be fair to have some concern. Certainly the way the offense has played the last 2 weeks, not up to their standard. 7 turnovers now in the last 2 games. That's not good. Obviously the passing game looks like it is, unrecognizable at times. And sometimes, you look and you say, it's easy to kind of blame the quarterback and say, man, just throw it, right? Your timing's off. I got the sense that coach wasn't happy with the receivers after the game. So there's a lot that goes into that. Obviously the protection was the worst we've seen it all season. Those guys just call it what it is, had a bad day up front. Yeah. And they'll be the first to tell you that as well. But I would say I have a little bit of concern right now. There just feels like some of these issues that we've had really all season that haven't really burned us yet. You keep saying, man, we're playing with fire, right? We're not rushing the passer like we should. Probably going to run into a game where that's going to kill you. Man, we turned the ball over, right? It's not costing us any game. We turned it over 3 times against the Raiders. We won. We turned it over 4 times against the Bears. We won. Sometimes you don't address those areas of need after a win because you can kind of get swept under the rug a little bit. You could say, turn it over, but we're still winning the game. It's not killing us. Eventually it's going to kill you. All those things kind of formulated into one big bubble that just popped on Thursday, just popped against the Packers. And we know, man, at division games, it's hard to win games like that, especially when one of the turnovers goes back for a touchdown. It's hard to win games, when your defense isn't finding a way to make an impact play and, take the ball away, do something to get the momentum back on your side. It's hard to win games like that. But yeah, I would say panic, no. Concern, I think that would be fair because I'm concerned. And I think the biggest concern is, look, Jared Goff, not just so much the passing attack that looks like it hasn't been good the last couple of weeks, the turnovers are something you're going to have to figure out. And the defense, the pass rush, it's something you're going to have to figure out, man. You know what I mean? Like you're making it really hard on yourself. You're making it really hard on your secondary. Yeah. When you're giving these quarterbacks 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds to find guys open, that's going to kill you down the stretch. So those are 2 things, in my opinion, that stand out as being the most concern, that they're going to have to hopefully hit the ground running this week and get back on track.
Obviously, the turnovers are a point of major concern. You mentioned it already, the interceptions against Chicago, the fumbles against Green Bay, the lack of producing turnovers defensively. Still, that's an area of concern as well. When you look at the numbers, though, Jared Goff, 332 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. You rushed the ball for 140 yards. You kind of feel like you would have been in it more. Let's take a look at this from Green Bay's side as well. Green Bay, they came in dinged up, a lot of injuries. But what we saw from Jordan Love, and kind of what we've seen from Jordan Love throughout the course of the season, the first time that the Lions and Packers played in Green Bay Thursday night, 3rd week of the season, he made some mistakes. Throughout the course of the year, he's progressively grown up a little bit. He's been getting a little bit better. What did you see from the Green Bay Packers that caused issues for the Lions?
I thought Jordan Love was way too comfortable in the pocket. I mean, the first time they played at Lambeau in week 4, this defensive line terrorized the Packers offensive line. They were in Jordan Love's hip pocket the entire game. They were forcing him into making bad decisions, rush decisions, decisions that ultimately led to turnovers. This past Thursday, I did not see really any plays where, you're forcing Jordan Love to make a mistake. I mean, you just let him get way too comfortable back
and
there.
He was really accurate.
And he was really accurate. And look, that first touchdown pass he threw to Jaden Reed it was a laser. It was probably between about 4 guys. I mean, he had one of his own receivers out there too, running kind of an out route. I think it was Christian Watson. Reed ran a slant behind him. Lions had it pretty well covered. I mean, it was just a good throw, but there's no pressure, right? The guy's just 1, 2, 3K, check right, check left, zip the ball. Anytime you can play, on pace like that, I mean, every quarterback in the NFL is good enough to beat you, if you can't cover. I just think we didn't get any rush on him, and the rush coverage aspect of it, there was no marriage. It didn't match up. There were times where there was a little bit of pressure, but then you look out and it's a 3rd and 8 and the corners are playing 15 yards off the line of scrimmage and they just take a 10-yard out and thank you very much. Keep the chains moving. There were times where the coverage was really good and you're sending, maybe an extra guy, blitzing. The first play of the game, they sent the safety blitz. Kirby Joseph blitzing off the edge. They pick it up. Jordan Love sits back there and nope, 1, 2, nope. Okay, let's take a bomb, right? It was just kind of one of those games where you could never get him out of rhythm. And that killed him. I mean, that killed him defensively. And how bad they felt, after the game, it was like, man, I'm disgusted with this defense. They can't do anything. They can't rush the passer. They can't get a takeaway. The crazy thing is I go back and it's like, okay, they had a fumble for a touchdown. They also had a fake punt, that they didn't get. They had fumbled the ball again inside their own 3. And I think the defense probably, in my opinion, probably for 15 points, which is still good enough to win you most of the games in the NFL. So that's the weird part is that, it doesn't feel like they're making any splash plays, but you feel like they're still grinding away and they're still good enough to hold teams, at least give their offense an opportunity to go win games. I just thought, man, you got to find a way to affect the quarterback early in the game because especially guys like Jordan Love and Justin Fields, if you let them get into a rhythm, they're going to kill you all game. If you can find a way to affect them early and disguise your coverages and mix up the pre-snap versus what you're doing post-snap looks, now you can sort of manufacture some plays that you're going to have a chance to take away the ball. I just didn't see them do that nearly enough on defense.
Well, we've seen them go for 4th downs quite a bit. That's what Dan Campbell is kind of known for, the gamble on 4th down. And I didn't really have an issue with a lot of, especially you start to get into the second half and you're pressing a little bit, you're going to take some chances on 4th down. They didn't have any success on 4th down. But the one that I had an issue with, and we've talked about this, we talked to Dan Campbell about it going into the bye week. Hey, coming out of halftime, you've been sluggish offensively, haven't been able to put points on the board. Well, they come out of halftime and they go right down the field. They get a touchdown. They force a punt. It's 23-14. They get stalled on their own 23, and then Dan Campbell goes for the fake punt. Now, it's sooner or later, it's going to bite you in the ass, and obviously bit him in the ass. And he mentioned at the end of the game, I regret putting the players in that position. It was a bad call. I get all of those things, but was there a sense on the sidelines like they were going for that no matter what? Or you and I have both been, even though I was a long snapper at times, you were probably never on the punt team, but we've been in those meetings where, hey, if we get this look, we're going to run this fake. Yeah. If not, hey, kill, whatever your buzzword is, hey, it's off and we punt the ball away. Was that one on called no matter what? Because Green Bay had it well defended.
Yeah, it kind of looked like one of the, in the operation, I think you nailed it. It's either you send in the punt and you say, if we get this look, you have the freedom to check to this fake.
Yeah.
Or you send in the fake and say, if they got it covered up, kill, or punt it away. That to me looked like a called play that we're running this fake punt no matter what. This is a time where and that's where I think Dan kind of regretted it because it felt like you started pressing, you started going all in way too early, right? Like you said, I mean, of course, you want to score every possession. You score coming out of half to make it a 9-point game, and then you force a punt. You get the ball back. That's one of those where, if you can, make that a 7-point game or an 8-point game, or I'm sorry, a 2-point game at that point or a 1-point game, you'd love to do. You feel like that's a huge momentum swing, but you don't need to press it. You know what I mean? Like your defense had just started playing better, right? They started getting a couple stops. It was at that time of the game, it felt like, if you're going to call a fake punt, that felt like the most obvious time to do it. And that's where I think we've seen Dan Campbell be really good because some of these fake punts, they're coming at times where nobody expects it. I think everybody that didn't shock anybody. It certainly didn't surprise the Packers. But yeah, that was kind of the, last dagger, I think, in that game where if you could have punted and gotten another 3 and out, who knows, you start to play one of those games. There was just too much time left, in my opinion, to really start pushing all your chips in the middle of the table and really start pressing for points. Because like Dan said, I mean, it came back to bite him in the ass. And that was a call that, I'm certainly he regretted. And, it turned out to be a big call in that game.
Right. And so, I mean, you go out to LA and you get into a shootout. You play the Bears and you're lucky to win at the end. Some mismanagement by them. But it's playmaking by you. Then you lose to Green Bay at home on a short week. And you mentioned it, some of those things that are sometimes glossed over in a win. Now you have 10 days before you go on the road and you play the New Orleans Saints. Hopefully it is a refocus on offense, simply of protecting the football. You can't lay it on the ground. You can't throw interceptions. This offense has been an explosive offense every single game. They find ways to, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've got J-Mo coming on. Laporte has been had an outstanding rookie season. In the backfield, you got a healthy Montgomery Gibbs. Like, all of those different things are positives for this. And the offensive line, even though they had, probably their worst outing against Green Bay, they're still a damn good offensive line. They don't get knocked down out of that top 5 offensive line. I still think they're probably second in the league. Second only to Philadelphia, but they've got to respond. They get 10 days to make those adjustments defensively, find a way to pressure the quarterback, play a little bit more sound defensively, but they're going to go on the road to New Orleans. New Orleans has lost 3 of their last 5. They lost to Jacksonville. They had 2 wins against Indianapolis and Chicago. Then they lost to Minnesota and they lost to Atlanta. What do you see going on the road has to happen for this team to get just back on pace, back to that 8-3 team that you look and you say, are they regressing? Well, they had a slump. I think obviously they're on the road to New Orleans. They're on the road in Chicago. It's going to be a cold weather game. And you've got to find a way. They have to win both. Obviously, that's the ideal. You want to win both, but are you okay with them splitting the difference? I mean, you don't want to lose 2 to Chicago. Or I know they didn't lose, but it felt like it.
Right, in the division, yeah. I mean, this is a game I certainly expect them to get back on track. I think that this long weekend and, even Monday when you get back into the building, it's time to, pull that rug up and pull everything out that you've kind of swept under there and really start to address, right? And I think that, look, even last week, I thought playing on Thursday after that Sunday Chicago game was not ideal because there were a lot of mistakes that were made in that Chicago game, and you didn't have time to address them. You showed up normal Monday, you come back, you reassess the game, you go through what happened. Film. You come back Monday right after that game, and it's boom, we're on to the Packers. We don't have time to address the Chicago, what the issues. So going into that Thursday game, you didn't really have kind of that sense of urgency or that point of emphasis. So, okay, these are things we got to fix. Now you have this long weekend. Now you have the 10-day stretch where it's time to uncover that rug. It's time to pull everything out and say, guys, we're doing really good at. These are the things that we're not, and these are the things that are going to kill us if we continue to play like this, right? For me, it's the offense. They got to find the rhythm back. I just haven't seen enough rhythm in the passing game the last couple weeks. And we kind of mentioned, Coach, said the receivers they played their part in that as well. It's not just all on Jared Goff, but you got to find the rhythm back in the passing game. I want to see him try to find that deep passing game back again. We saw it earlier in the season. They're taking shots downfield. They're getting one-on-one coverage. Jared Goff's giving his guys a chance to make plays. That's kind of gone away from this offense. It's kind of gone back more to the, quick under routes, the dump off, the checks, the intermediate kind of crossing route that teams are starting to hone in on a little bit. And I think that the Lions have struggled to adjust in game to some of those coverages that they're seeing from opposing team defenses. I think this is a week for Ben Jansen to put everything in front of him and say, okay, what are we doing best? What are teams doing best that's, giving us issues, and find a solution for that when it comes to the passing game, because the running game has still been pretty damn good. I mean, even last week, the last 2 games, you didn't get enough opportunities based off the way those games went. You're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. We know that, you can't necessarily keep running the ball when that's the case. The running game has still been good. They got to find a way to start faster, though, right? I think that if that first quarter against the Packers, not enough chunk yardage, not enough runs where it's like we're starting to loosen them up. You're starting to see the safeties creep down. You saw a lot of like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, right? That's not the way that they want to play. You got to start bouncing these 4, 5, 4, 5, and then maybe you're starting hitting the 10 and 12 early. That's how you loosen everything up for the passing game. And defense, look, you have to get some. I mean, you can't put it all on the coaches. I mean, John, I've watched them the last 2 weeks play zone, play man, blitz 5 guys, blitz 6 guys, blitz 7 guys, rush 3 guys. It's like whatever they're doing, man, you're not getting enough consistency from your defensive line right now. So you have to manufacture ways. Maybe you have to turn yourself in, not your whole defense, but find times during the games on third downs or second and longs where you're showing exotic looks. You're showing looks like we see Baltimore or Minnesota, where, my God, there's 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. We don't know who's coming. Let's run this protection. And hey, they're bringing 6 from this side. They're bringing 4 from that. They're dropping 8. Oh my goodness. That's how you kind of manufacture not only pressure, but chances to take the ball away. So if I'm Aaron Glenn, I also look at that. I say, how can I help my guys try to manufacture a little bit of a pass rush? So we're not just relying on them, just win your one-on-ones, win your one-on-ones, win your one-on-ones. They haven't been winning the one-on-ones consistently enough this season. So as a coach, it's up to you to make some adjustments. So hopefully those are some things that they looked at kind of in the mirror over this long weekend and said, you know what, we got 6 games left. Obviously, this is a time of year where if we want to reach all of our goals come, late December and January, we're going to have to start playing our best football right now. I do think that they are a team that can do that. And that's why I kind of go back where I don't think there's time to panic, because I think this team has proven to us over the course of the last 20-odd games, they usually find a way to rebound. So, it's going to be up to the coaches. It's going to be up to the players. But I think this is a game for you going to New Orleans. It's not going to be an easy game. Yeah. They can play good defense. And Derek Carr, if you give him time,
he'll pick you apart.
Can be a good quarterback, right? But those are 2 things that you're going to have to really put a point of emphasis on this week going into that game.
So here's the question offensively is how close was Jonah Jackson, do you think, to being able to be available for that Green Bay game? And do you think he'll be back for this New Orleans game? Because as I think Sorsdahl will be a quality offensive lineman. I didn't think he played bad. He didn't end up getting benched, but I thought there were times where the interior of that offensive line got overwhelmed.
Yeah, that was the first time all season I saw a lot of pressure up the middle. And that's a weakness against this team, man. Like when your quarterback can't step up, and now you're it's making the job on the tackles a little bit harder. Even the sack, Decker let up late to Rashawn Gary. I mean, he's at about 10 yards, right? Yeah, as an offensive lineman, you would say, that's a pretty good job, but Jared wasn't comfortable stepping up in the pocket based off of some of that internal pressure he had saw all day. And you see how it affects the entire line. Jonah, I didn't have a good feeling about him playing Thursday, only because it's a short week. You don't really have time to go test it out in practice, and you're not in pads, you're not punching, you're not using that wrist like you are going to be on game day. So I didn't think there was really any way for him to test it out to see if he was going to be ready. It didn't seem like at the time, after that, I think it was the LA game where he got hurt. It didn't seem like at the time that he was concerned about it being a too long of a term type deal. So hopefully he's a guy that they can get back, because we see the difference that it makes when he's at that left guard position for that offense. So I will obviously have to see how the injury report goes this week. And, by the time we get our next show out on Friday, we'll have a much better feel for that. But he's a guy that you look at and say, man, like, team needs you. You know what I mean? Team needs you. There's not a lot of guys right now that are playing at 100% going into week 13. Everybody's a little beat up. Everybody's a little banged up. Message to Jonah would be, man, if you can go. You got to find a way, because you've seen now how much this team misses you when you're not on that field. And they need you. If they want to, accomplish their goals here in 6 weeks, they're going to need him to play.
At the end of the week, we'll talk a little bit more about the New Orleans game and the trip down there. But big picture, all right, Philly, big-time win.
Yeah, last 2 weeks.
Yeah, last couple of weeks, but big time win. And they've got some tough games coming up. I know they got the Niners. I believe they've got Dallas in the next 3 weeks. But Philly, San Francisco, who seems to be hitting their stride, back on rhythm with with the addition of Chase Young, I know before the weekend, the 3 weeks that he had been suited up, they had 15 sacks. So obviously it's been a huge impact, not him by himself, but the team as a whole have been able to pressure quarterbacks. So you've got Philly, you've got San Francisco, and Dallas. How do the Lions right now, just a snapshot in time, match up with those three teams? Obviously, we'll get a chance to see Dallas at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, based off the last two games, I wouldn't feel very confident against either of those teams. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what you can go off of based off how they're playing football right now. I got to be honest with you, John. Even if Seattle came to town again, I can't sit here and say, based off of what I've seen the last week now with Thursday and last Sunday, they got some work to do. They got some work to do to get their way back into that conversation of now competing with those teams. I think they can do it. I'm not saying now, this is a conversation down the road. And if they turn it around this week and next week, then certainly it's a different conversation. But where we're sitting at right here, right now, the kind of rut that they're kind of stuck in, they're going to have to pull their way out of that before I really start to feel confident again that they can match up with a Philly. They can match up with a San Fran. They can match up with a Dallas team, or even they can match up with a Seattle team that they've lost 2 years in a row at home to. You know what I mean? So I think they could do it? Yes. There's been times this year where we've seen we're playing good football and San Fran's going through a rut, right?
Yeah. It all 3 in a row.
Yeah, it all depends on, when you get them and how hot you are. But I do believe in this team. I do believe in this offense to be able to bounce back and kind of reassert themselves back into that top 5 category of an explosive team, a powerful team, a physical team, a team that can take you down to the fourth quarter and deliver that haymaker late in the game. I do think they can get back to that. But they're going to have to prove it because, if you do it once, you have one kind of crappy game, you're like, okay, whatever. 2 in a row, it starts to become a pattern a little bit. Yep. They're gonna have to break that pattern before I start as a fan feeling more comfortable about what kind of chances we have come January.
All right, so once, then twice in a row, and this part of the podcast isn't going to last very long because we're recording this on Monday. You're probably going to be watching this, hopefully, or listening to it today. But tonight, Minnesota and Chicago. All right, division matchup. Josh Dobbs has gone into Minnesota and really lit things on fire. How sustainable is it? Now, if they lose to Chicago, obviously we're sitting here going,
yeah,
because we got to play twice in the last 3 weeks. But how sustainable is the Josh Dobbs magic in Minnesota?
I mean, I don't think it is. Like, I think it's kind of a flash in the pan right now and a lot of cute stuff. Oh, look at the way he's running the ball. Oh my God, so cute. But I don't think it's sustainable. And I could be wrong because I said that after the first game and then he put really 2 more games back to back that you're like, God, you can't keep doing this, man. What's going on here? I don't know. I mean, Josh Dobbs has been on 3 different teams this year for a reason. You know what I mean? Has he finally found the spot that is conducive to him, like a Geno Smith in Seattle? Possibly. Do I believe it? No, I don't. I think he's got a good enough team around him to keep winning. I think his defense, the Vikings defense is good now. I mean, they're legit. They can get after the passer. They take the ball away. That's a good defense. So I really think any quarterback in a system like that, you're going to have a chance to win because you're going to be, Minnesota, you score 20 points, 21 points. Your defense is probably good enough to win you most of those games. Which is what they're doing out of that Broncos game when the Broncos scored late last weekend when we saw them play last. But Minnesota's a team. Look, they're kind of, that loss last week that they had against Denver kind of made us all kind of wipe the brow a little bit. And okay, all right, we got a little bit of breathing room. I think it's probably going to come down to those last 2 or 3 weeks in this division on who can close games out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Josh Dobbs, it doesn't scare me at all. He's a good athlete, which anytime we play a good athlete at quarterback doesn't usually go well. But I just, I don't think his magic can continue. Yeah. You know what I mean? And maybe that's just the biased fan in me that I don't want it to continue. So I'm going to tell myself it can't. Yeah. Who knows? It could. But no, I think Minnesota's a good team. And I think he's in a good situation right now. But they're just going to have to keep winning games based off of how their defense is playing because they've been, they're the reason why they're 6-5. They're the reason they kind of turned it around after that 1-4 start, whatever it was, to get to 6-5. And obviously that's a good situation for a lot of quarterbacks to be in.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the week, we'll give you a little scouting report as to what it looks like with the Lions going down to New Orleans, playing in the Superdome. And hopefully we'll be able to give you some more information on whether Jonah Jackson will be back or not. He's the one major injury that we're waiting to hear about. We'll see if he practices on Wednesday, but make sure for all your Lions information, you stay tuned in here on Necessary Roughness.